All right. Welcome to the Kubernetes SIG Cloud Provider meeting for February 26th, 2025. Uh, we have all sorts of exciting topics today. Please go ahead and add yourself to the attending if desired. And let's get into it. We can come back and look at bug triage, et cetera, at some point after we've taken a look at some of the items currently open. But I would say, Almiko, you want to take it away? You have several items already.
Yeah, sure. A lot of this is, or some of this is just kind of bookkeeping and keeping us all up to speed and whatnot. So I'll go through these and then should be pretty easy to pass on to Joel after that. So the first one, this one came in from some of our fellows in the community here. Manjunath has opened this PR to add the provider IBM Cloud Test Infra repo to Kubernetes SIGs. And I'm super excited about this because this represents IBM Cloud now bringing their test infra into the Kubernetes test infra. And so, we've been talking about testing a lot in this SIG for the last year or more. And I think this is really cool because it just means we'll get to see more clouds being tested. So cool. Bridget, I think your LGTM is probably all we needed there. And
Yeah.
that'll give us a good, course to move
Awesome.
forward. So just give my,
Excited about this. Um, yeah, I was looking in the issue. Every single Kubernetes org is a little different. And I was looking to see if I could just automatically do an LGTM. And I was like, this kind of looks manual. I think it's something that Mr. Bobby Tables probably takes action on.
right. And it seemed good to me, but I was like, you know what? I think it'd
Yep.
just be better if
Oh, yeah,
we should just do
absolutely.
the standard thing. So cool.
Big
Thank
plus
you.
one encouragement.
And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you to our IBM, peers in the community who are bringing this forward. This is really cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
And did anybody have questions or comments about that before I move on? I'm not seeing any hands going up, so I'm going to move on to the next one here. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Thing in there. Okay, so this is a cloud provider GCP thing, and Walter's not here, so this may fall a little on deaf ears if we don't have a GCP representative. But this is like a feature that someone had opened up. This person, Vyacheslav, had opened up a couple of years ago to disable this external load balancer stuff. And we had gone over the years, we had gone back and forth over this, and it seemed like we had gotten to a good place where the GCP folks or the maintainers of this project were willing to approve it and everything. But then we got caught back in 2022, and then we never went forward. So really, I just wanted to bring this up. I think we're going to try to reform this PR and propose it again. I think I don't know. Theo joined us. I think Theo is going to try to repropose this PR.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Theo, since you are here and you did comment on this yesterday, do you want to kind of tell us what's going on with this?
Um, sure, yeah. Um, so I actually don't have tons of context. I've not looked through the entire code change. It's more we're
Oh,
carrying.
sorry. It just said that you were still carrying the patch, and I'm thinking if you're carrying a patch separately, it would be great if we could get it merged upstream. So to Almiko's point, like, yes, this kind of fell off by the wayside, but if you repropose this PR, we can certainly talk to our colleagues at GCP and see if we can get that in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at basically. This is just I think Theo's just kind of taking this work over. I think he's going to repropose this PR and then I think the notion is that at that point, yeah, let's get the cloud provider GCP maintainers to help us out, and get that merged. So anyways, I might bring this up again maybe sometime when Walter or another one of the maintainers here is around. But yeah, anyways, just wanted to get it on people's radar for now. And I don't know if anybody else had questions or comments about this one. All right. If not, I will move on to the next one here. I know. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah. Okay. So I think we just need I think we just need one more LGTM here. So Bridget or someone, if you wanted to give an LGTM
Yeah,
or
I
do
have
another
this.
review.
I have this on my list for later this week, so
Okay,
I
cool,
should be
cool.
able to take action on this. It has just been an exciting time, I'd
Yeah,
say.
totally, totally. I think I've answered all the requests that came up in the comments here, but if you find something else, yeah, just add a comment and I'll update this. We're actually doing really well this year. I think we're weeks ahead of where we were last year in terms of getting this done. So even though we're a little after the date they wanted it, we had it posted by the time they wanted it posted. Now we just need to get it merged and everything. So, all righty. So yeah, that's it for me. Hand it back over to you, Bridget.
Okay, fantastic. Um, it looks like our next agenda item is Joel found a regression as he is wont to do. Joel is excellent at this. I'm actually going to make you co-host, Joel, so that if you want to, you can share and show us what you have going on with this, or I guess Alnico can keep sharing it as well. Um,
Yeah, I think it's all right
yeah,
if Mike just carries on.
yeah,
So in the 131 branch of Azure's provider, it uses, I'm gonna have to remember to get this correct, the Azure Go Auto Rest to do a bunch of authentication stuff. And part of that is a file, environments.go, that says if you're on Azure Public Cloud, use these endpoints. If you're on Azure Gov Cloud, use these. If you're on Azure China Cloud, use these. Um, as part of a kind of move away from the auto rest, I believe that repository's been archived. There's been a bunch of refactoring going on by the Azure team, and I think they may have made an oversight as part of the refactoring, which is kind of where this comes from. So they still have this kind of same environmental lookup, but in the new version of the code, they don't have the endpoints and stuff pre-populated. Now, perhaps they're thinking, okay, well, maybe these will change over time. I'm not entirely sure what the logic was there, but they have a very minimal version of the environment compared to what was in the auto rest before. Now, the issue we have is that in the 131 example, if you set I'm in Azure Gov Cloud or Azure German Cloud or China Cloud, you didn't need to do anything else in the config. And it would automatically discover, hey, here's the resource endpoint, and that gives the CCM the ability to discover everything else it needs to know. To make this work in the 132 branch post refactor, you have to set, hey, I'm in Azure China Cloud, but then also set the actual endpoint for the Azure China Cloud Resource Manager. I think it is Resource Manager endpoint. So obviously that it is kind of a breaking change. It's going to hit lots of people. Anyone who is running Azure CCM on any of these like specialist clouds is going to have that issue. So I suspect, looking at the code, that it should be fairly simple for us to re-inject those endpoints. But I wanted to just clarify, was this a deliberate and conscious change? And have I missed like an announcement or something? Or was this an accident and let's get it put back? That's basically where I was at.
yeah. Just I read over the issue and your comments, and I think that you're probably correct. And I think this is one of the things I'm sure we all carry in our hearts this problem with GitHub, which is following up on an issue that somebody recomments on that's already closed, might not even be on your radar. So I have gone and pinged that specific staffer as well as their team lead internally at Microsoft just to say, hey, can you please go look at this um, currently closed thing because it might not be on your radar and we got to get an answer here.
Yeah,
So
that'd be really useful. Thank you, Bridget.
yeah, and I will make sure that that does get an answer. But um, yeah, it's because it doesn't make sense that it would that it would have a breaking change like that.
Yeah,
Like that doesn't make any sense.
the PR itself was like, I'm going to remove some dead code. And I could
Yeah,
see like a series of PRs where they were just kind of refactoring away from this older library. And like it totally makes sense that it was just an
yeah,
oversight. And I guess in the testing that's been done internally, you happen to have that config option set where previously you didn't need it set. And so you've not picked it up. But yeah, certainly within OpenShift
exactly.
and on those regions, we haven't been setting that. And I
Yeah.
suspect we're not the only one.
Well, anything that could surprise customers, I'm really glad that you saw it before, everybody opens ICMs. So
Yeah.
um, thank you, Joel. And yeah, I will try to get an answer about or I will get an answer. Hopefully the answer will be this was a bug, we'll fix it.
Sweet.
Okay. And then you have a different item as well. And you want to take us into this?
Yeah, so I believe this SIG owns the Kubelet credential provider plugins. So if you're not familiar with this, there's a feature it came out in 126 where Kubelet can, using a particular basically RPC call, run a binary that will then go talk to Azure or Google or Microsoft or Amazon or whoever and say, hey, give me some credentials to talk to your private registry. So, for example, if you are pushing images onto AWS ECR and those are private, you need credentials to pull those. So Qubit will say, hey, I recognize that this is an ECR repo because of the configuration you've got, and I'll go and grab those credentials using this magic binary. This logic used to exist in Kubelet has been moved out into the CCM repos. Now, I got asked today, and this is kind of an interesting question. Do I expect if we were using a 3-year-old version of that binary that it would break? So people are thinking about long-term support, obviously. And that binary is kind of pretty low level. The way we ship it is through RPMs. It needs to be there before Kubelet starts, for example. So it can't be deployed as a pod. I think the protocol like that, there's a specific JSON RPC that gets kind of done, we're calling the binary, giving it a JSON blob, it spits a JSON blob back out. I'm imagining that kind of protocol is never going to change because if it did, it would break everyone. And I'm also imagining that the various cloud providers are not going to change how their authentication works because it's such a key part. And, can you imagine Azure, Amazon, just completely wiping the way that their registries authenticate? Right? It seems weird. But I'm guessing we don't actually have any written down support guarantees. So what do people think? Do you think if we took a binary that was 3 years old and we ran it today, it would still work?
That makes me very nervous, but I would love to see if it does work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what the nature of the binary is, right? If it's like takes inputs, spits outputs, then maybe I would have good confidence that it would still work. But if it has to interact with REST services or something like that, yeah, I would start to be very curious if those old REST services, you know, still we're still operating at the same endpoints as does that stuff need to be refreshed? That would be my wonder.
Theo, I know you know lots about this. Have I said anything incorrect around how they're working?
Nope. I think Almiko raises a good point. I would expect the binary to still work. So the one I think I know the best inside and out is the Amazon one, that just hits their auth APIs. I don't think it would be the binary failing. It would be Amazon changing an auth API that the binary would then have to know about. Um, so I think this might really be a question of how stable are those APIs for each individual cloud, rather than how stable are the binaries themselves. Like I think the GCP one might even be a single file, a single main.go. They're not complicated.
And just where technically is this stuff held, Joel? Because I was looking in the package, credential provider, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here.
If you can look in the Slack chat, I just sent the Azure one, for example.
Oh, cool.
And in each of them, actually, each of the AWS, Azure, Google, it's basically in the same place, CMD/ECR, GCR, ACR, credential provider, and you have basically a binary that looks very similar. It takes some input and then gives you a JSON blob back that has some credentials in it.
So I'm sitting here looking at the one you just put in the chat, Joel, and I see, 2 years ago bumped for Go dependencies, and I'm like, yep. So the bumping for Go dependencies is the place where I I would suspect if something is going to break, it's because an unexpected thing happens between whatever the endpoint is doing and whatever the you know, we bumped or didn't bump. And I don't know, the first thing, and maybe this is completely naive, but the first thing that comes to mind for me is we can't know if things are going to break. We just have to test. Like, I don't think we can prevent breaking, and I don't think we can have perfect for a future like knowledge of breaking. I think we just have to find breaking, maybe, hopefully, in a test rig before stuff gets merged. Question mark. I don't know. I would love to hear people's opinions about what our best approach there is.
Just for to go back to the original question, looking at the way this application in the Azure, directory works just for now. I mean, it looks like it's writing to a file or something, right? And so like to the question of would it still work? Like it seems like maybe because it's if it's just taking input and writing to an output, I'm not quite sure this run plugin is taking some writer handle, right? So that could technically be, oh no, here we go. So it's reading from standard input and writing to standard output. So to the original question, yes, I would expect it to keep working. Does it actually, are those credentials still good? Who knows, Is it out of date with the upstream schema? Like who knows, right? So it's conceivable that this could keep working. And if these plugins are written in a way that they're kind of like these are meant to be like black box type devices where it's like you just put input and you get a file out, right? That would be really easy for us to test. And then B, yeah, would it still work 3 years later? Yeah, probably. But I've got programs from the early 90s that still run. It doesn't mean they really do anything.
Yeah, so I guess from our perspective, sure, things should work. From the is Microsoft, Amazon, Google going to change their schema and therefore it calls an endpoint and gets an invalid response? Potentially not. So working out over time how those things might change is probably the best way to answer this question.
I like what Nolan put in the chat, and maybe he wants to speak up about that. But the just covers a lot of territory, but yeah, probably.
Yeah. So oops, just to iterate what I said on chat, I believe writing a test to codify that expectation and like continually running it, and so we get early signal when it does break is probably the way around it. But yes, it's that just is a load bearing assumption. And I also think like the question when you ask will providers change their schema, I think the answer to that is it's only a matter of time. Um, you can't rely on those things being stable forever. Um, so having tests that give early warning would probably be the best way to defend against that.
Yeah, the issue with all this LTS looking stuff is that we're basically saying, hey, here's a thing, and we're guaranteeing it's going to work for a few years. And we have no idea if cloud providers are going to change their things, right? Like, there's nothing to say that any of the CCMs, when we look at those, will still work in 3 years, right? We're constantly updating the provider SDKs. They could be doing magic under the hood to migrate over time. Yeah,
I
just
love how
a
you
kind of
have I love how you have the word three, and I think like, yeah, and Canonical decided to go out there with a 12. Like it's the arms race for so many years. And this is gonna be a lot, no matter whether it's 3 or 12 or infinity. Like
yeah, the
we can't get, you're right, we can't guarantee things won't change. We just have to check and see if they have.
oh,
So
thanks,
I'm
Ian.
I'm doing this code diving while we're talking here because like I think, I wanted to see did we have this documented? And so it looks like we do have it documented how this should work in our enhancement, right? And to the notion of what we're talking about here, with you know, the test plan was for there to be unit tests and E2E tests, you know, to kind of cover some of this stuff. So I think if there's any sort of improvement that needs to be made, something we need to do is update this, you know, check the accuracy of this enhancement because it's 5 years old at this point. Are we still following this stuff? And then the second part, I think, which is interesting, is looking at the Azure provider, right? Like, I think we're seeing there is an end-to-end test here for testing out the credential provider. And you know, I just started looking at this, so I don't know how deep it goes, but we do have an end-to-end test for it. And if you look in the, you know, if you look in where the provider is created, there is also a unit test for it. So like it seems that we did follow what was put in the enhancement here, but maybe since it's been 5 years, maybe it's time for like a review of this just to see like, okay, have we drifted from this or is there any change that needs to be made?
Yeah, you want to drop a link to that in
Absolutely.
either the chat or the doc.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
put it in the doc,
yeah.
absolutely.
So maybe that's the action item is uh, we got to see if we need to review and update any of the tests that would be providing us with certainty as to whether or not breakage could be possible. Especially, yeah, especially in the world of increasing LTSs.
Yeah, for me, I think a big part of what the SIG could do here is, you know, we have several cloud providers that are in the CNCF repo. And the follow-up here, totally agree with you, Bridget. Like, let's review the enhancement, you know, is it still accurate? And then also, like, we could do the legwork of checking all the providers that we have in Kubernetes SIGs currently to make sure that where there is a credential provider present, it has good, up-to-date unit tests that are being exercised and that it has end-to-end tests that are being exercised if we can. So like we could definitely go through and do that audit and kind of make sure that we're following up the way we're supposed to be. Does that, I guess, like Joel and you know, does that kind of get to the heart of what you're looking for here?
Yeah, I was just kind of looking for a gut feel from people, to be honest. Like, I think we're probably going to take some gambling in this and say, yeah, we expect that Amazon's not going to change their APIs in 3 years. But I just wanted to kind of know, like, from the cloud provider perspective, it seems that we probably don't have any plans to change anything there. We can't predict the future, but it is a supported API and RPC effectively between the binaries and kubelet, and so changing it would be a massive breaking change.
Yeah. And well, and to your point, just to pick on Azure for a second, since I work there, your very earlier, the very item that you brought up right before this was, oh, look, an unintentional, possibly unintentional breakage over here. Like,
Yeah.
even if as providers, we don't intend to break something, that we still could break something. So finding out, you know, which stuff is breaking, I think matters as opposed to like I don't think what do they say? What's the saying? Hope is not a strategy. Like like your recommendation, I think, is our strategy.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't just hope that the unit test will always pass, right? Um, I wanted like one thing I think that we could do here as well, and I just added this as a comment to the doc, is um, now that we've kind of learned about this over time, I think it would be nice to come back in here and maybe add a little more detail to this enhancement if we've identified a new risk, right? If we've identified a risk about potential changes to credential schemas, and it has any impact on like the upgrade downgrade strategies or anything, I think it would be worthwhile to mention it in here and say, hey, look, if a provider decided to change their credential schema, you might see these type of failures happening and everything. So that might be another follow-up that we could take onto this as well. Take care, Chris. Thanks for coming out. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, thank you. Good robust discussion there. Let's see. Do we want to pop open any needs triage, just to kind of, since you're driving, if you want to see if we have anything that we have to look at.
It looks like we have one new one here.
Okay. Performance. Oh, somebody's saying that moved it from passing to flaky 19 hours ago.
Yeah, there were some disruptions around when Kiki was making these changes to update the flags and whatnot. We did have a little bit of a ripple effect, so this could just be
Oh. Okay, so it may be a flake that we don't anticipate recurring.
yeah.
Let's just look at the test grid link and see if it's. Yeah, I mean, looks awfully green right now. Not that that necessarily means anything, but yeah, I definitely don't see anything flaking lately, like even for the last few days.
Okay. Well, I'll accept the triage here because we don't want this just to hang out open.
Oh yeah, of course. Awesome. Okay.
What happened there? Did something weird
It
happen?
worked.
Okay, no, it was just weird. It like updated it, but then like my comments disappeared or whatever.
Oh, okay. Computers.
Okay. Um, let's go back here. So that was that. Let us look.
Were there any other, yeah, I was gonna say any other test grid that we want to look at?
Yeah, I was going to go to the test grid, but there were no other open triage issues.
No. No.
Let's just see. Theoretically, if that test was failing a bunch, I would hope we'd see it up here. Yeah, I think
I
these.
mean, there were some, but those might have been flakes.
Yeah, this must have been the stuff because this is like from earlier in the week.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, I think things are looking
Oh,
pretty decent.
okay, great. Well, let's see, we have this meeting again in 2 weeks. Probably by the time we meet in 2 weeks, I'll just put myself on the hook for saying, hopefully, El Miko and Chef Taco and I will have something to show the community about what we plan to do at KubeCon EU. I know we're gonna be starting to pull that together. So getting early look at that. Um, and then I think that we have one of these meetings, like a month from today, I will actually be out right before KubeCon.
Yeah, I
But
think
we'll
looking at the calendar, I think we'll probably meet on what is today's the
probably the
26th,
12th.
so the 12th, and then I guess
Mhm.
the 26th of March as well.
Well, the 26th of March is when I'm on vacation, so I
Yeah,
won't be at that one.
you won't be at that one, but I should be at that one. And then I'm
Cool.
guessing we'll skip the 9th of April one because that would be the week after KubeCon.
You know, when everybody comes back and is finishing all their everythings.
Right. Well, I'll be out the week after KubeCon. So
Yeah,
if you want to come host it on the 9th, you
no,
could.
so say we all.
Nice.
The
Okay.
the week after, there's rhythms of life, right? There's a week of vacation, followed by a week of KubeCon, followed by a week of catching up on all the everythings.
Or did I say it was the 9th afterwards?
I'm gonna have to look at the calendar.
Yeah, I was just looking at this and my brain has already forgotten. Yes, the 9th. Okay.
Yes, okay. And then maybe since you're writing about the future, we will meet on March 12th. We'll meet on March 12th, we'll meet on March 26th. We'll skip March 9th. And then resume meetings on we'll skip April 9th and resume meetings on April 23rd. Wonderful. That covers it. Does
All
anyone
right.
have anything else that they would like to talk about today before we take our leave of each other? Okay. Think we're in good shape then. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next time.
Cool. Thank you. I can't seem to stop